Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in to another episode here with the Aquarium Project. Today we're going to be talking about these fish behind me that just arrived. This is the Altolamprologus Compressiceps black Kipili. So we'll just jump right in. I'll just jump on and show you them because that is the coolest part about these fish. So this is them here. They obviously are quite washed out because they've only arrived just this morning. But honestly, I couldn't wait to show you guys, so I thought I'd just jump on anyway. We will be doing some more content about these guys as they settle in, as they get more colors, as they get more mature and all that kind of thing. So make sure you like and subscribe and everything to keep up to date with them. But what we're wanting to talk about today is we wanted to talk about how you look after them basically, and just some more general information about these guys. They're not a very common fish, at least insofar as New Zealand goes. So, I mean, I've already got quite a lot of questions about them. So I thought what might make sense is if we just kind of go through some of the basics, how to look after them, what you might need to know if you're wanting to consider them. And then we can kind of go from there as we go along. I mean, obviously I've got quite a lot of them, so we're going to have them for a while to make content about, I'd imagine. So, yeah, I just thought we'll jump on in with some of the beginner stuff, some of the basic stuff, some of the more kind of boring stuff almost, just to kind of give you guys a bit of an idea. So these guys are what we call dwarf Tanganyikan cichlids. So they come from this place called Lake Tanganyikan in Africa. They are a bit different to the Malawi cichlids. That would be the ones most people will think of when they hear of African cichlids. So a Malawi cichlid would be this here. So these guys, for example, are peacocks and habs, which are from Lake Malawi. As you can see, they're very big, very grumpy, big mouths, like to fight, all that kind of thing. And for the most part, they don't really have all that much in common in that sense with the dwarf Tanganyikan cichlids. So these guys, they don't get as big. They will still get pretty decent size, but they're not going to get as big. So like they might get around like 12, 15 centimeters, something like that. Maybe closer to 12 centimeters, but they're not going to be like the peacocks and habs where they just kind of want to murder everything and want to fight. These guys are much more peaceful. They are still more aggressive than something like a gourami or a tetra in that, but not quite on that level. I'd say they're more in line with like a dwarf American cichlid, like a pistogram or a ram or something like that. With these guys, you want a minimum of 3-foot tank, so like a 150 litre or 40 gallon aquarium. That'll be fine for a minimum for these guys, although to be honest I'd probably recommend a 4-foot tank ideally, which would be close to like 120 centimeters, 250-ish liters maybe, and about 75 gallons. That's going to be a lot more kind of long-term safe for you guys, and also allow you guys to play around with some of the other fish that you might want to kind of include in this aquarium, in this Lake Tanganyikan biotope as we'd call it. Some of the fish that you could include in this tank might be like Altolamprologus brechadi, some of the shell dwellers, for example, like Altolamprologus brevis might be a good one. Chromis species, Lelupi, all this kind of thing. They'll all make great additions to that kind of a tank. I would generally recommend keeping it with other Tanganyikan cichlids. You can mix. Some people do have success mixing some live bearers, like you might be able to mix some mollies, for example, might be a good one, or swordtails, some of the bigger live bearers. That's basically your best options. Some people also do recommend mixing them with the Malawi cichlids we just take a look at, like the peacocks and habs and that. Some people have success with doing that, but to be honest, that's not something I would probably recommend. These guys have, the main reason is these guys have a really like fragile jaw, I guess is the best way to put it, and that I've had issues when I have mixed them in the past with them lip locking with the other fish and then ending up with dislocated jaws, which is not ideal. So I'd probably recommend keeping it with these kind of other dwarf Tanganyikan cichlids, or you can also do the another quite popular one is something like the Synodontis species, so like Synodontis petricola, Synodontis multipunctatus, the little dwarf Tanganyikan catfish. I do have some in this aquarium here with my Livingstone group, but I don't think they're going to be out and about, to be honest. They might be in here actually, in this little tunnel. Yeah, I don't think I can show you guys, but that's another one that the cuckoo catfish, that might be another one that you might want to mix in with these guys. being Tanganyikan cichlids, you want to be a bit mindful of their water parameters. So you really want to keep the pH and the hardness as like high as possible. So what I'd recommend for these guys is a pH like kind of 8.2 would be about right. And you want basically as high a GH and KH as you can reasonably achieve. The best way I think of doing this is what we've got in here, which is we've got aragonite sand. So this is a marine, like it's popular for marine tanks, but basically this sand will bring up your pH and buffer the water in that. But there is many different ways to do this that we've kind of discussed in other episodes. I just think that the coral sand or the aragonite in that is going to be your best option. In terms of the way you want to set up your aquarium, I'd very much recommend doing as many sort of caves and crevices in that as you possibly can. I think it's kind of your best option in terms of getting that natural behavior out of these guys. They do like to spawn in caves, spawn in crevices and cracks and that, but just in general, they do like to hang out in those kind of areas, so that's what I'd recommend for these guys. And of course, sand. It's not going to matter so much for this kind of size, but when they get bigger, when they get to their adult size, they are going to like digging around and foraging and all that kind of thing, so being able to foster that behavior is always a good idea. The only thing is, they do take a long time to get to that size. We actually talked about it on the podcast the other day, but yeah, they just grow very slowly, but they're one it's well worth it when you get there. Getting them to their adult size is like there's nothing really like it. They get these big massive teeth, these big kind of pointy teeth, all that kind of snouts, pointy snouts, all this kind of thing is really interesting and a really cool fish to look at. So with these guys, they are quite easy to feed. They're one of those ones that kind of just eat whatever you kind of present to them. So you can feed them like prepared foods, so like flakes and pellets. You could do your gel food, so things like rapashi is a good option. That's probably my favorite option for this kind of thing. You could also do like frozen or freeze-dried food, as well as obviously live. The key with this kind of fish is you really want to screw down on making sure you're feeding good food. It's probably a bit of a controversial opinion, but it doesn't make as much of a difference when you're talking about something like a tetra or a community type fish. But with these kind of guys, if they're not getting the proper nutrition, they're really going to struggle. So yeah, things like your rapashi, your good quality flakes, good quality pellets is your best option. If you are wanting to do live, that is a really good option. These guys are real fun to feed live foods to. So things like your Daphnia or white worms, they're the two best, but I think Daphnia is a really fun one to feed, and they love it. You can also do the baby brine shrimp, but obviously when they get to adult size, it's kind of going to be a bit too small for them to see, so they're probably not going to eat it as much. But definitely when they're smaller, like this kind of size of these ones here, I'd definitely be chucking in heaps of brine shrimp, heaps of Daphnia, heaps of white worms, all this kind of stuff, and they're absolutely going to love it. The thing that I think a lot of you guys are going to ask is, what is the difference between these guys and the Calvus? So at least in New Zealand, those are kind of the two most similar that we get, is these Compressiceps, black Kipili, and the Calvus. So the Calvus is Altolamprologus Calvus, so that's like a different species to the Compressiceps. Very, very similar, but slightly different. In New Zealand, technically, Calvus aren't allowed to be imported. What happens is when they're small, especially like this kind of size, they all look exactly the same. Any Altolamprologus is basically going to look identical. So what happens is the Calvus gets imported as a Compressicep and then sold as a Calvus. That's nothing to do with me, obviously. I don't know, I'm not a fan, but you know, whatever. But other than that, they are quite similar fish. Just, I don't have that much B-roll of these guys, so I can't really show you, but they do look a little bit different, and I think these guys, in my opinion, look nicer, look cooler, but that's probably up to you. But that's kind of a bit of the reason why, well, the main difference, I guess, or the most important difference to consider with these guys would be. So yeah, but that's basically all I had. This is kind of a quick overview for you guys. If there's anything glaringly obvious that I've missed that like you guys really want to know the answers to, definitely drop them down in the comments or let me know, and we can film a follow-up video. I can answer your questions that way. But yeah, if you're obviously interested in buying some, let me know. I've got a few, so we should be able to hook you up. But yeah, other than that, thank you guys very much for watching. If you haven't already, please make sure to like and subscribe to support the channel, support the shop. got some exciting stuff in the pipeline. So yeah, other than that, thank you guys so much, and we'll catch you in the next one. Bye.